guys, this
Oh,
TikTok
this
where
one?
he was practicing his mugshot because this year he might make somebody meet God.
Oh!
In the context we have now, this video would just seem like somebody joking about...
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you didn't already know, act like you know, because it's that Azo, so let's hop right into this video. So today we are going to react to a huge TikToker arrested for unaliving somebody, okay? Before we hop in, you already know what to do. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and without further ado, let's just hop right into this video. Wow.
Well guys, today's not going to be a super fun topic. We've talked about a lot of different TikTokers and social media influencers in general on this channel who have been known to do some pretty crazy stuff, but today we might be entering into a new category. I think this is as bad as it can get. Over the last few days, there's been a pretty serious development involving a TikToker who is known as Mr. PRADA. Even if you're not on TikTok, really, there's a pretty good chance you've seen one of his videos before. He's pretty popular in that niche of TikTok videos that seems to be really big right now, where you just film something random and then you put a caption over it. It's basically like tweeting with extra steps. I don't really get it, but they're really popular right now, have been for a while. And he was one of the bigger names involved in that kind of content, if you can call it that. But that's not why we're talking about him today. A couple of days ago, some screenshots started to make the rounds on Twitter depicting a person of interest who was involved with the murder of a Baton Rouge therapist. Pretty quickly, a lot of people started to think that these pictures resembled Mr. PRADA, and rumors started to spread that he was the one who did this. And it did not take long for us to get confirmation that this person was in fact the TikToker Mr. PRADA. Earlier today, as of recording this, Terrion Thomas, also known as Mr. PRADA on TikTok, was arrested on suspicion of aggravated criminal damage to property, resisting an officer, and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Now, you might notice that missing from these charges is anything that has to do with murder. Hey guys, real quick, August from the future here. I was going to upload this, and then a new development occurred where Mr. PRADA has now been charged with second-degree murder. They're even alleging that the murder took place inside of Mr. PRADA's apartment. So, yeah. Some of the stuff I might say in this video might not make a whole lot of sense because of that, but I was working off the information I had, okay?
Okay, but it took place in his apartment? So what is a therapist doing at his apartment? I don't think that's very appropriate. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of in-house, like literally at your client's house therapy sessions. I've never heard of that. If anything, they've always gone to the therapist's establishment, or you could do it over video call, but never like a house therapist. Like, what? I don't know how to describe it completely, but y'all know what I mean.
Just thought you should know. But things are pointing to that likely changing here pretty soon. As of right now, Mr. PRADA is the #1 suspect in the case, mainly due to the nature in which he was arrested. The information we have now is that after William Abraham's body was discovered, who was the therapist that was slain in this situation, police announced that they were searching for a person of interest after a man was seen driving the therapist's stolen car. Once the car was located and a traffic stop was attempted, the driver backed up into the police officer, drove off, crashed, and then fled on foot. This is when the person of interest post was made, and the following day, Mr. PRADA was arrested in Dallas after an officer confirmed that he was the one who was driving the vehicle. Now, there's a lot up in the air about this case right now, and obviously, since it involves somebody who's so big on TikTok, there's a lot of speculation, lots of rumors, lots of internet detectives, with most of the talk surrounding this case being about why Mr. PRADA might have done this. Now, just a quick heads up, we're going to be talking about some relatively heavy stuff here. This is not going to be my typical haha, look at this dumb TikToker who did something stupid kind of TikTok video. It's a little bit more serious than that, so just keep that in mind moving forward. This is not going to be something that's fun to talk about, but I do still think that it's important, because unfortunately, some of the aspects of this situation are really tales as old as time. We're going to be talking about some things that most people have probably heard or been told multiple times before, but they're things that you can never really get too many many reminders on, and I think this situation is a pretty good example of that. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's begin. So as I was saying, the main thing that people seem to be talking about in this situation is why exactly Mr. PRADA would do this. This is a guy who is presumably making a pretty good amount of money making these TikTok videos. Young dude with his entire life ahead of him. Why is he getting tied up with the murder? Well, the answer that a lot of people are pointing to is a pretty unfortunate one.
Oh, why aren't they texting me back? Are they mad at me? Do they not like me anymore? I'm scared to ask for reassurance.
William Abraham, the man who was murdered, was arrested in 2015 and accused of inappropriately touching a minor. During a counseling session, an 11-year-old boy accused Abraham of touching him inappropriately. Now, the charges ended up being dropped because the kid ended up recounting his statements, so the case was never actually brought to trial. But people did some digging, and they found that Mr. PRADA happened to be 11 years old, which has led a lot of people on the internet to believe that that is the reason that Mr. PRADA is involved in this, that he was the child involved in that 2015 case. Now, I'm not here to speculate or anything, but I will say just from a human perspective, that is kind of a crazy coincidence. But there's a very real possibility that that's all it is, just a crazy coincidence. The defense attorney that represented the therapist in 2015 said that it was not Mr. PRADA in the case, and the DA who handled this case said this: while there was a probable cause for an arrest, my office had to determine if the evidence supported our burden at trial, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. This matter was under review by my office for approximately 2 years. After considering all available evidence, the best interest of the child, and the lack of any inculpatory statements by the arrestee, we declined to institute formal charges. Now look, for most things, I'm generally of the opinion that the justice system is a pretty sacred thing. It is far, far, far from perfect, don't get me wrong, but I feel like for the most part, when a person is found innocent of something, or if a person is found guilty of something, we as a society kind of need to respect that, otherwise shit kind of starts to fall apart. However, I'm also of the opinion that generally the average 11-year-old has no motivation to lie about something like this, and that a kid recounting a statement is not evidence that a person is innocent. Now, I'm not saying that it's evidence that he's guilty either, but it does seem a little bit suspicious. Now, maybe that's me being a bit hypocritical considering what I just said about the justice system, but sorry, human nature is human nature. Can't help but find that kind of weird. But, like I said, this could all just be a coincidence. I'm trying not to speculate, but I can't really not allow myself to find certain facts about the case kind of strange. But at the end of the day, the guy could have just bought a stolen car, or he could have just stolen the car. A person running from the police when they know they're driving a stolen car? Really not that hard to believe. There's a very real chance that he had no idea the car he was driving belonged to a dead person. I mean, generally, if you're gonna murder somebody, you're probably not gonna steal their car and drive it around afterwards. That would seem like a pretty stupid decision. If you really think about it, it kind of starts to make more sense that the guy just bought a stolen car, or stole it himself, and didn't want to get caught. And that's why he ran. However, there's another aspect.
But that doesn't make any sense, because if he's making all this money from TikTok, you know what I mean? And he has all this money, why wouldn't he just buy his own car? Why, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But then again, there are, you know, actually I was going to get into some statistics real quick. But, anyways, it just doesn't make any sense.
Of this situation that's leading a lot of people to believe that Mr. PRADA might be more involved in this than just stealing a car. With this story coming out, a lot of people are looking back at the TikToks that Mr. PRADA has made throughout the years with sort of a new set of eyes, and a lot of people seem to think that there were signs that something like this could have been brewing for quite some time. The one a lot of people are sort of jokingly referring to, I think, is this TikTok where he was practicing his mugshot, because this year he might make somebody meet God. In the context we have now, this video would just seem like somebody joking about kind of being on edge, having a rough year. But now that he's involved in this, you've got to look back and wonder how much of the stuff that he was saying was really a joke.
That didn't age well. Which is really what
I was referring to earlier when I said that stuff like this is important to talk about, even if you've heard it 100 times. You never know what's going on in a person's life.
Never.
You never know what they're dealing with.
Never.
Stories like this are far too common, where a person is putting out cries for help. The signs are all there, but they're the funny funny person, so it's taken as a joke.
Yeah.
Or there's just nobody there to step in and be like, hey, what's really going on, man? Now, let me be very clear here, okay? Please do not take me saying this as me saying that you should try and take it upon yourself to try and save social media influencers when you think they're reaching out for help. Like, seriously? Please do not do that. Parasocial relationships are real. You do not know these people. It's not your job to save somebody that you've never met. This is more of just like a general thing when it comes to your friends and family. When the signs are there, don't just ignore them because your friend has always said stuff like this, or your brother has always joked in this manner, or anything like that. If the signs are there, if a person that you know is saying stuff that's concerning you, just reach out. The power that a single conversation, a single text can hold with a person is insane. Now, let me also be clear here. It's not your job or your responsibility to be looking out for another person's mental health constantly. I feel like a lot of people end up getting sucked into that, and that just does way more harm than good. At the end of the day, people are responsible for their own actions, and while that might be kind of hard for some people to hear, that's just the truth. You can't save a person who doesn't want saving, and you shouldn't be trying to. I'm not saying that you need to make it your life goal to go and save everybody you're connected to. That's not what this is. There's no guilt to be had in not reaching out. There's no guilt to be had in not knowing what was going on in somebody's head. If somebody goes out and does something drastic like this, unless you directly had a hand in making it happen, it's not your fault. All I'm saying here is that if there's somebody that you care about, and they're doing some stuff that's concerning you, there's no harm in reaching out. But there is genuine harm in thinking that it's your responsibility to save another person. That you have to go in, you have to fix everything. That somehow, if something goes wrong, if something tragic happens, it falls onto you. It's your fault. I know it might sound like I'm kind of going back and forth, and I'm not trying to be contradictory, but there's a fine line between being a friend who is trying to do the right thing and being a person who is putting themselves into a role or a position that they do not belong in. Now, I'm bringing all this up in the context of this situation for two reasons. One, because like I was saying, the power that a text or a conversation can hold can really be something pretty incredible, but also, if the power isn't there, that's okay. If you go through the videos that Mr. PRADA has uploaded, or the ones that were re-uploaded, I don't even know if his actual original account is still on TikTok, you'll see a lot of comments of people saying, like, we should have seen the signs, somebody should have done something, and that's just not productive. The reality of the situation is that we don't know what happened behind the scenes. There very well could have been friends and family reaching out. There may have not been. But speculating and trying to blame yourself for something you had no part of is pointless. But
I feel like he got to the point of, you know, what he wanted to say about Mr. PRADA and what is going on and his arrest and everything. Honestly, this entire thing is very sad. I hope that, you know, he gets the help that he needs. And hopefully it was a situation. I feel like it would just be better if it was a situation where he bought a stolen car instead of actually homicide, like committing homicide. I think that's far better than that, because you have to live with that burden of you taking somebody's life. You have to live with that for the rest of your life. There is no elixir, there is no amount of, I don't know, anything that you do in your day-to-day that helps you calm your nerves to make you forget about something like that. And I'm not talking from experience, but I've heard people's experiences online, people that have, you know. Anyways, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but let me know what you guys thought about this video down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!